rich and smile wider. Fidelity Bank. Believe with us.
If I believe with us, Fidelity. If I know I lay your side, Fidelity.
At Star Oil, we believe fuel is not just a commodity, it is a lifeline. Every cedi saved at the pump is a cedi that helps a mother send her child to school. A farmer transports food to the market, or a young entrepreneur deliver their first order. Our mission is to make fuel more accessible by offering consistently competitive prices, helping ease the financial burden on Ghanaian households. In a country where transportation costs can consume nearly a third of household income, this is not just business. It's a social responsibility. Star Oil, still quality and affordable fuels for all.
If you want quality, this be where you belong. Syntax, hey, tough, hey, strong. Oh, gonna shout and sing the song. When the sun they hot, Syntax no break. When the rain they fall, still no shake. Builders they choose and plumbers they prove. Any project you they start. Syntax
Brushing gets more fun with your kids with the new Pepsodent Kids toothpaste. Give your smiles protection that lasts. Grab yours today from a store near you. This advert is FDA approved.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to Ghana Connect. Big news this week of the plans of government to put a new bill before Parliament to change the name of Ghana's only international airport from Kotoka International Airport to Accra International Airport. In fact, as we speak, the bill is yet to be laid in Parliament, but it has ignited a storm of controversy with so many people sharing their views. I think from my unscientific view of how the debate has gone, there's such a large section of society that says, listen, that change is welcome and is very important. But you also have a very vociferous opposition. And I don't mean the NPP as an opposition party, but a group of people that say that this change is absolutely not necessary. First, the government should go focus on bread and butter issues, but also secondly, because Kotoka, despite having overthrown Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, has played such a pivotal role in this country's history. And so, regardless of what you may think about Kotoka, you need to leave the airport in its name. So many people sharing their views. On Ghana Connect today, we unpack some of the reasons that have been adduced in support of the change, but also consider the arguments that have been made by those who say the change is not necessary after almost 60 years, or at least 60 years of the name Kotoka International Airport. So if you want to share your view, please do so 055 1111997 055 1111997. That's our WhatsApp console. I'll be very interested in getting to know what you think about this and putting your views out there for the world to listen. So let me introduce the guests who are connecting with us on this important matter, people who have very divergent views, strong views on this very important matter. Ernesto Yeboah is known quite as one of the very popular Nkrumahist when it comes to Ghanaian politics. Very, very staunch supporter of Nkrumah. And since this matter came up, has had a few choice words on this matter on social media. Ernesto Yeboah, it's good to have you connect with us.
Thank you very much, my brother. Hope you are good.
Very well. We also have Nana Frimpoma. For those of you who voted, you saw her picture on the 2024 ballot. She is the 2024 CPP flag bearer. Nana, it's good to have you connect with us again on the show. Well, I think Nana just dropped off the Zoom. We'll get her pretty shortly. But also, Ras Mubarak is a former member of parliament and a very, very important person when it comes to the views that we share on this matter. Ras, it's good to have you connect with us. Hello, Ras Mubarak. Professor Kwatin is a historian. He has some history lessons to share with us on this matter. Prof, it's good to have you connect with us.
Good evening.
So, Prof, let's start with you because, let's get some history lessons on this. For those who are uninitiated, how did Kotoka's name came to be at that airport, given that just few years after that name, he had been part of that bloody coup that had toppled Dr. Kwame Nkrumah?
Yeah, thank you very much. My regards to your listeners and then also Ernesto, your boy. Ernesto was my student, then he had to run away with the panel analysis. Ernesto, good evening. Yeah.
Good evening, Prof. Nice to be here with you.
The president came to be associated with the airport because of his involvement in the coup. He was a member of the National Liberation Council government that toppled Osagyefo for Dr. Kwame Nkrumah's CPP government. Now, in 1966, when the coup happened, the following year, 1967, there was a counter coup led by three people, Yeboah, Atta, and Osepoku. These soldiers succeeded in the initial stages, but they even announced the coup. But with the passage of time, the NLC soldiers or troops were able to dislodge them from most of the places that they had captured, especially the strategic installations like GBC, Blackstar House, and then airport. And I think Kotoka was the one who was assigned the role of quelling the rebellion at the airport. And in his attempt to move to the area and quell the revolt, he met his untimely death. Subsequently, the government, after it has been able to quell the rebellion and then reassert itself, decided to honor Kotoka's greatness by way of naming the airport after him. So definitely, as we normally do everywhere, a committee will be set up, and then based on that, based on its recommendations, then the government will name a monument after people that the government thinks or the institution thinks deserve to be honored. So Kotoka was accordingly honored by naming the airport, which was Accra International Airport, after him. So from that time onwards, the airport used to be called Accra International Airport, but it came to be known as Kotoka International Airport, and it has remained so up to today.
Really interesting history, Prof. Thank you very much. Please hold it there for me, Prof. We'll come back to you to get some understanding of the kind of conversation that have been had since then. And also, you listen to this story. This is clearly somebody that died trying to prevent a coup, although he himself had joined a coup. Are you one of those who believe that his name should stay on our international airport?
Well, thank you very much once again, Kwaku, and greetings to Prof and all your listeners. I think that it's important to ask ourselves as a people what matters to us, and based on that, decide whether the name Kotoka on the airport is appropriate. From where I sit, I do not think that it is appropriate. I mean, regardless the fact that, as you have already described, Estange in Nkrumah is and all of that, there is a reason why I have come to be described as such, as an Nkrumahist. It's because, I mean, for quite a significant number of years, been articulating the position of Nkrumah, and it didn't come from nowhere. It came from reading and understanding what the man Nkrumah stood for. And in my adult life, traveling across the world, everywhere that I mention that I am from Ghana, it is Nkrumah that, I mean, opens the door for me in terms of any courtesies that would be accorded me or any favors that would be done me and all of that. And so you would realize that in the heat of this conversation, other towering Pan-Africanists like Professor PLO Lulumba have spoken on the matter. And they are even saying that no, it should not be reverted to Accra International Airport. The name Kwame Nkrumah should be put to the airport. And so, whilst we are here thinking that, oh, it is some former colonial Ghana that is having this conversation, it actually has an African dimensions. It has a world, how do you call it, outlook. And others are interested in that. If you know the significant number of times that I've been embarrassed at conferences. Some, I mean, at certain conferences, they will stop and say, but these people, do you know they have a traitor's name on their airport? Embarrassing. And so I think that it is long overdue. But whilst we even talk about the name change, I think that we must go beyond the name change to question what is actually being, is it the NLC decree 339 that is being repealed? If that is not being touched, then we need to reconsider it. We have to revoke NLC decree 339 along with, how do you call it, the name change that needs to occur. Otherwise, what is happening is simply cosmetic.
Really interesting. Let me get to Nana Frimpoma, the former CPP flag bearer. I mean, for you in the CPP, this is a call you've been making for years. I suppose you agree with those who say the change is really welcome.
Absolutely. Let me start by saying hi to my good friend and next to my good comrade. I just admire him so much, and then all other listeners as well. I mean, clearly, I find this surprising, but then I can also understand because we are in a democratic era and everybody has a right to their opinion. But it is very interesting to see people argue today that the Kotoka name should be there. In fact, I never thought anyone could make any reasonable arguments in that direction. But I saw people trying to argue the fact that Kotoka actually saved Ghana from whatever. And in one breath, we have a situation where we all know that people that we need to package for the next generation are people that have contributed to society in a way that must be emulated, in a way that just has to do with our saints in church. When you say somebody is a saint, it means that the person's life that he lived will expect more people to live similar lives. In the case of Kotoka, what I know about Kotoka is a coup maker. That Kotoka overthrew a government that was going to oppress people and all kinds of statements. So for that reason, is it justifiable? Is that the reason why the airport should be named after Kotoka and that should continue to be named after Kotoka? I'm really surprised. And you hear things about even the ethnicity, that the fact that he's from the Volta, which people have also already said. We have our admirable people like Budema, that me personally, I really, really do admire, and several other people. So I don't think that this discussion, we are just having it because for maybe for intellectual purposes or something. But the fact is clear. They can go on the streets and ask people. It's the people who really don't have too many problems and issues. And the reason why the Ghanaian today has so much problem and doesn't want to really talk about such issues and is talking about bread and butter is because of the level that it has been reduced to based on people like Kotoka, who overthrew a legitimate government, who overthrew a government that truncated, and all the good work was truncated at that time. And until today, we can't seem to have our bearings. We can't seem to know where we are going as a nation. And that is why people might say, me that I want to just talk about bread and butter. Otherwise, talking about yourself, African personality, understanding who you are and loving who you are as an African, it started with Osajifo. And for nothing, we know that is what the most that he has contributed to us. You must first of all believe in you. You must know who you are. And you must believe that you are capable of doing things that others have done. That is when you can do it. So that's only that shift in thought, that shift in idea, that Osajifo brought, that the African is capable, the Ghanaian can manage his or her own affairs, itself is enough. And so when you don't have people who have gone on such a level and have achieved such heights in society, and you have someone that overthrows a legitimate government, and you are benefiting from that democracy, and you think that because that person overthrew a government that you benefited from, it is okay, it makes you either hypocritical or it makes it, there's no integrity within that. And I find it very difficult to understand the thinking, even though I can understand the politics of it. But because we are a nation and we must think of the future generation, and we must think of the overall direction and benefits of everybody, I find it quite difficult to accept that kind of argument from, and you know, it looks like the people who are arguing are all the people who actually benefited from the overthrow of Osajifo. And they are the reason why we are where we are today, right, for all the mess and that we find ourselves in as a nation.
Interesting. Nana, Ras Mubarak, you hear the points that have been made by Nana. She makes such a forceful point to say that this should have been long done. But I should also announce that we have been joined by someone we understand has some quite strong views on this, Justice Adoboy, and I'll bring it in pretty shortly. Ras Mubarak, you agree with Nana that this should have long come, and why has it taken 60 years?
Good evening, Kwaku, and greetings to listeners. I'm going to put it in a bit of a historical perspective. The Accra International Airport, as it was known then, was a small military airbase. Now we get independence, and this same Kwame Nkrumah, the African of the millennium, refurbishes this small military airbase inherited from the colonial administration, expanded into an international airport, calls it Accra International Airport. Fast forward February 1966, a bunch of thugs and criminals go to stage a coup, and one of the key architects of the coup gets killed in 1967, and then this thug is named after an airport that was refurbished and expanded by the same man he helped overthrow. I have never come to terms with the fact that we have allowed the name Kotoka to be on our international airport all these years. I mean, the airport is the gateway into Ghana. And visiting, foreigners who come into our country would see that. Some would want to know who this Kotoka figure is. I mean, of course, he was chief of defense staff, but it doesn't take away the fact that he was an architect in a coup d'etat that literally set our country backward. All right? And so this is very welcoming news. And as a matter of fact, it was downright insulting. I remember making a post in January of 2023. That was the last I made a post about this. Because we had been talking about Ghana should remove the name from the airport. And I find it insulting to the memory of the man who built the airport to an international standard. And
Right.
so I don't believe in the existence of ghosts. I think the continued, existence of the name of Kotoka on that airport has drawn some bad luck to us to the extent that Nkrumah's ghost is hunting us. And I make the point that until the last vestige of that painful February 24th, 6th event wiped off, we would find difficulty having the blessings of God upon our country.
Right. I mean,
It is welcoming news
okay.
for those of us who believe it was downright wrong, it was insulting, it was glorifying coup d'etats to have a name of a creator on our international level. I mean, I struggle to come to terms with the fact that it's taking this long.
Interesting.
And
Yeah.
Kwaku, just a final one. This is not the first time that the name of an airport has been changed in anywhere in the world. Indeed, when the Americans helped overthrow Saddam Hussein in Iraq, the thinking was that Saddam had a checkered legacy, and so they don't even want anything associated with his name on their international airports, and they changed the name of that airport. In the same United States of America, you've seen places like, the international airport in Louisville named after Muhammad Ali. You've seen Portugal name an airport after Cristiano Ronaldo. This is what we know. In Abu Dhabi, the name of the airport was changed to the name of, Prince Zayed, simply because these are people who have contributed positively to the legacies of, the countries or to humanity. If you go to Russia, they changed the names of 44 airports in a single go to the names of prominent scientists in Russia,
Right.
Prominent politicians, etc. What good did overthrowing Nkrumah bring to us, besides misery?
Interesting. Ras, please hold it there for me. And I've been joined by Justice Adoboy, like I told you. Justice, so why are you opposed? Because like all the four panelists have explained, perhaps this has been long overdue.
Thank you very much, Kwaku. My surname is properly pronounced Adoboy.
Adoboy. Oh, thanks.
Okay. All right. Now that is to put things right. Now, so for me, I hear the arguments of those proposing it and those against it, and my position is very clear. Now, let me state from the beginning that I am a son of a CPP activist, and my father loved Nkrumah to a fault. So that is the background I come from. Secondly, having read Ghana's history, political history, very thoroughly, I realize the place of Kwame Nkrumah in Ghana's history is undisputable. Now, having said that, my position on this matter is, for instance, my senior brother Ras Mubarak says that a bunch of criminals overthrew Kwame Nkrumah. You see, I don't reprobate and approbate. We did not have any bunch of criminals overthrowing any government in Ghana. We've had legitimate military officers and police officers overthrowing Kwame Nkrumah.
If you overthrow a constitutionally elected president.
Hold on. Please, we've had military officers overthrowing Buzia. We've had military officers overthrowing Dr. Hilal Imam. Okay. Now, if you do not want a coup leader or anything to be associated with Ghana's history, then do not be associated even with the Fourth Republic. Because our constitution, when you look at the constitution, even the law that passed the constitution into being is a PNDC law. It is by a military regime. not a civilian regime. Now, so if you love one and hate the other, that is absolute hypocrisy. Now, my position on this matter is General Ike Kotoka was the CDS of Ghana. Legitimate. He was murdered at the site where the airport is or near the airport. And so the military government at the time passed a decree into being and named the airport after him. Right. And it has been so even before I was born, and we have known it. Okay. We are going to spend a lot of time, a lot of documentation, a lot of maybe international relations and PR marketing to rebrand our airport, Accra International Airport. Way into ICAO and all these international bodies that our airport is registered with. We are going to spend a lot of time doing that. Whereas right here in Ghana, there are transportation problems. This is where my problem with the minister even is. There are transportation problems which he has not made any effort to solve. The previous government ordered 100 electric buses. 10 were delivered before they left office. They have been on pilot. After 11 months in office, the transport minister is telling Ghanaians that they are now in negotiation with the supplier. After 11 months in office, he has not done anything about it. Recently, I saw his deputy in Cairo promising Ghanaians that they are branding new buses, 300 to come, and commuters close from work, they stand at bus stops till 10 p.m. looking for buses to go home. Nothing has been done about this by the transport minister. And we wake up one day, our very absent transport minister, absentee transport minister, the only time he wants the public to hear about him is he is passing a bill to change the name of the airport. Changing the name of the airport, how does it solve the transportation problems of the commuters? People who need transport to go to work and need transport to return to work, serving the nation. And you know the role transportation plays in national economic development.
Interesting. Justice, I like the slant you've taken the conversation, so please hold it there for me. We'll get into some of those points that you've raised. Let me go to Nana and Ernesto. And let me start with you, Nana Frimpoma, first. He makes good points, does he not? He says, listen, this is a country, there are so many problems that, in particular, the transport ministry itself that they are struggling to deal with. Of course, he also deals with the substance of the issues of the people that did the coup that took out Kwame Nkrumah as people who could justify the reasons why they did what they did. Nana?
Wonderful. I mean, I couldn't agree with him more in that direction, that there is a problem in this country regarding transportation, accommodation, employment, everything. And that is why we have this issue of we coming out to say clearly there's no need to put Kotoka in at the as the entry point to this country. Yes, what he's saying is the reason why CPP and Nkrumah lovers are always talking about how the two-party system has not solved problems in this country. However, the discussion on the table here today is the fact that if we do not even address the basics, which is when something is so wrong, someone that has committed a crime, that was said that the peak of a crime, just that he was not, if he was arrested at that time, it was treason. And that meant that they would have been fired. You understand? It's the firing squad thing. So they just succeeded. And for that reason, we think it's okay. So I don't think that he's, even as much as he's talking about something essential, for the purpose of this discussion, that topic we would have it later, but we should address the fact that the entry point to this country should not be named after someone who overthrew a constitutionally elected government. I have seen, I heard, well, what is his name? The former secretary to the, is it Bedia Tour? I think it's Bedia Tour. he's made some few points that I found interesting. His point was that they want to see him as a hero because he actually fought, or whatever he did was against the Patriot Acts, for the American one, the Detention Act, and also the fact that we had elected, the Parliament had voted that there should be a one-party state. Now, here is the point. Parliament did the vote. The Detention Act all were passed by Parliament. So if something like this, that's constitutional. If you didn't like it, you go through that system to make it, to overthrow it. You go through that system to do something. But if you take the gun and you go and you fight and you overthrow a legitimate government, nothing should be discussed. Nothing should support it. The museum is there for people like that. That is history. But when it talks about national monuments, that is not for people like that. It's as simple as that. And I think we should address that first so that our young people should understand that 1,000 years down the line, 10,000, you will not be honored if you go through that ballot. You must wait your time. You must do what is right. We are a constitutional rule. Whatever is the power of the tongue, is the power of the voice, is the power, everything. And people must fight it right. But you can't say that when something has gone to Parliament and it has been passed, then you know better. Especially when it has been cleared and it's very it is, we know today what happened, that they were paid to do that. The files are there. The declassified files are clear that these people were paid. So let's not talk about honor. Let's not talk about the fact that the person was the top in the military.
Okay, Nana, thank you very much. Please hold it there for me again. And as to how do you respond also to that argument that have been made about, I mean, particularly you listening to Justice making such a forceful argument?
Well, I share, I mean, part of the position that my brother Justice put out there. Because look, the 1992 Constitution is essentially a military document. We are only deceiving ourselves that we are a democracy. We are not. We can talk about the fact that we follow constitutionalism. That's separate from democracy. And that's why in the previous, the Constitutional Review Commission, we presented a petition that the indemnity clauses, for instance, in the 1992 Constitution should be removed. And then Prof. Safiajo told us bluntly that the removal of the indemnity clause from the 1992 Constitution will mean total collapse of the 1992 Constitution. And so as far as we are concerned, we are not in a democracy. This, constitution that upholds the inequality of citizens in our country cannot constitute democracy. At least in the very least, democracy goes by the maxim that there must be equality before the law. And the 1992 Constitution, falls short of that. Now, even leading up to the establishment of the second Constitutional Review Committee led by Professor Prempe, we similarly articulated that, look, rather than a constitutional review process, let us have a constituent assembly and write a new constitution altogether. That, definitely fell on deaf ears. And so I share with him, on that position. And then on the position of the indolence of the transport minister or the ministry and all of that, those are concerns. Today there are serious transportational crises, in our country. Just walk out there and see the number of stranded Ghanaians and the exploitation, blatant exploitation taking place. It's all simply because somebody has to be doing the critical thinking that would ease our roads, ease traffic, reduce or eliminate exploitation and all of that. That isn't being done. Nonetheless, I associate fully with my mother Nana Frimpoma's position, that when it comes to the issues of national history and monuments, a nation has to decide whether it wants to heroize traitors or people who are actually deserving of national honor.
Interesting. So, Prof. Kwatin, since the airport was named after Kotoka, in your historical analysis, has there been periods where there's been a clamor for a change, or really it's all been silent? Because for me, given the little history that I know, I've always wondered why Kotoka's name had to be on our airport. Was there any resistance at all so far in history?
Yeah, I don't think I have heard of any clamor for the change of the name until recently, when some elements of CPP came out with the proposition that the name should be changed, as some of them have articulated not long ago. They think that the coup makers were criminals, and I don't think they were criminals. I think what we have to note is that if you look critically at the regime of Asantete Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, it was divided into two phases. The first phase, from 1951, when he was the leader of government business, and then later prime minister, up to 1960, when he became president. Now, and then Ghana also became a republic. The first phase of Asantete Dr. Kwame Nkrumah's regime was fantastic. He did a lot of things. But in the second phase of his regime, when he decided to make Ghana a republic and then even turn socialism and the so-called African socialism, that was where problems began. And it must be told, politically, economically, and socially, the country suffered. Things were not in good order economically, politically. I will take them one by one. Politically, and Nkrumah decided to suppress openness, turn the country into a one-party, and in parliament, all opposition, you join EPP, you lose parliament. Even some of all EPP members, I think, as of you use the word hypocrisy, some of the people who are articulating, calling for the removal of the name of Kotoka from the airport and now are eulogizing Nkrumah, they are hypocrites, because if you read the literature, there are four bears, where some of them were even against Nkrumah, and some of them had to even run away from this country because they were being persecuted. Somebody like Afro Bedema had to run away from this country. He was a finance minister, but he had to run away. He fell out of favor with Nkrumah. He was opposing socialism. Besides that, we had a situation where even Akwanje, the one who suggested to to UGC that we knew of Nkrumah, so they should bring him to become the general secretary. Kwaku was tried. He was accused of or an attempt to assassinate Nkrumah, but then he was arrested and tried. And when they tried him, I think they had done a few or so. They were exonerated. They were acquitted and discharged. Nkrumah was not happy, and he sacked the chief justice of that time, Akokosa. All these things are there. And even when his government was overthrown in 1966, CPP elements jubilated in this country. CPP elements jubilated in this country. And they sang songs in honor of the coup d'etat. But today, these are their children, their forebears, are the people who are saying that Nkrumah was a criminal. Kotoka was a criminal, or his colleagues who did the coup with him were criminals. I mean, it's sad. And if you come to the economy was in shambles. The economy at that time, you could not get them to buy. People want to create the impression that Ghana at that time was like heaven. At no point in Ghana's history had Ghanaians experienced a blissful life in their history. At no point have we experienced a blissful life. Truth must be told.
Right.
Ernesto will bear me out. He was my student. I said as my intro at the beginning that he was in UCC doing his master's and PhD. And he did a graduate course. And that course is, what do you call it, military regimes in Africa. If you tell me whether I'm lying or I'm not lying, he did a course, military regimes in Africa. Why do we have a course called military regime? Because at the point in our history, our political history, throughout Africa and in Ghana for that matter, we had the military intervening because they saw that the government had become dictatorial, the government had, the pioneer government who helped us to get independence, have deviated from from what they sought to do. So what this military did was to intervene. People have gone to detention. In the case of Ghana, people died in detention. David Dankwa and then this one, Obesebi Lamte and others, they died in detention. Some other people would have rotted in detention before the coup d'etat happened. So all these things become part and parcel of our history. And once they have become part and parcel of our history is made up of civilian rule as well as military rule. So if you decide to condemn the military rule, and for that matter, you decide that anything associated with military rule to be expunged from the history or to be consigned to what we call it, Museums and Monuments Board, I do not agree with that. It is part and parcel of us. We cannot distort our history. The history must remain as it is, and everything that happened was done legitimately. That was why a decree was passed, which Ernesto made allusion to.
Right, Prof. Thank you very much. I think you've really set the context, and Prof will take leave of us now. Prof has really taken us on a historical analysis from that. But Rasmus Barak, you listen to Prof. Is it not right that sometimes we angelize, if there's a word like that, Kwame Nkrumah, when there are documented excesses, for which reason there was a coup d'etat? Coup d'etats cannot be justified, some will say. But when you read the literature and some of the things Prof has just explained about Kwame Nkrumah, and even if I'm just doing a devil's advocate here, some would say that given what was happening at the time, the coup was right to have come, or at least Kwame Nkrumah had it coming.
Well, to tell you the truth, this is a desperate attempt to distort our history. First of all, nobody has argued that, we should wipe out military history. No one has made that argument on this platform or elsewhere. All right? The second point that Prof made is a bundle of contradiction. In one point, he's making the argument that Nkrumah's finance minister had to flee from the country. He had to flee from the country because he was in cahoots with a foreign government to overthrow the administration of Kwame Nkrumah. And so, if you are found to be subverting your own constitution, and the government wants to arrest you and you run away, how does that make the government dictatorial? He talks about, difficulties in finding some food, products and cost of living. Is it his argument that under President Akufo-Addo there should have been a coup d'etat? If this is the line of thinking, then I worry for his students. No disrespect to Ernesto, who once was a student. But a country going through economic crisis or difficulties is no justification, for taking up arms and overthrowing the Constitution. That point has to be made clearly. All right? The point we have made is that the 1966 coup was unjustified. It had set us backwards, and there was no reason whatsoever of honoring a coup maker, with a monument as important as the foremost airport in the country, where every visitor and nationals would see the name Kotoka on our airport. How difficult is this to understand? And I can take you back in history. It wasn't for nothing that when the Americans killed Osama bin Laden, they obliterated, they had to take his body under sea and make sure that nobody could even turn his burial place into a grave, a burial site for visitation, etc. No country wants to honor rogues. And the professors would tell us one country where people who have subverted, in modern history, one country in modern history where people who have subverted the will of the people, have conducted themselves in a criminal manner, have been honored with monuments and so on and so forth. It doesn't happen anywhere. And that is why even in post-colonial era, when countries attain independence, they take they go through the process of removing names of, persons who had carried out persecutions, etc. If you go to Southern Africa today, it's happening all over the place. They are changing names of all these, people who were involved in apartheid. But these were people who were in government. But they committed high crimes. And once you've committed a high crime, you can't be honored with a monument. It's as simple as ABC. And for me, my shock is the fact that this had gone on for so long. And we've spoken about it and made noise and written theses until now. So the government obviously, and Parliament has to be encouraged to do the right thing, ensuring that finally we can nail the coffin on the head of this sad chapter in our history. Of course, it would always be, a part of our history. But I have met Pan-Africanists from, North America who have said they are not coming to Ghana until Kotoka's name is removed from our airport. That is lost revenue to the country because they can't wrap their heads around the fact that somebody does this not only to Ghana but to the entire African continent.
Interesting.
And we have honored the person.
Okay, Russ,
by naming.
If you can make this very quick for me, do you agree with the proposition to Accra International Airport, or you want a name, some specific name, on that airport?
If you look at my 2023 post, I make the point that anything but Kotoka. And so it could be the name of, a prominent guard chief, and I'm wholeheartedly in support of that. It could be the name of, some flight lieutenant. I'm not saying Jerry Rawlings, but someone who's distinguished himself. It could be the name of a mathematician or a scientist from Ghana, or even a footballer.
Ras Mubarak, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ras Mubarak. Ras Mubarak is a former member of parliament, and he's been sharing his views on that. Thank you very much for making the time to join us. Let me talk to Justice. We're about to wrap up. We just have a few minutes. If you can make it quite brief for me. What do you think should happen now? Then I'll go to Nanafrin Puma and then Ernesto. Should Parliament and the government in particular pull the brakes on this, or do you have some compromise? If you're taking Kotoka's name off, what do you expect to see? Maybe you have some name in mind.
No, I don't have any name in mind. But let me remind my brother Ras Mubarak. He makes very controversial statements that he has not kind of interrogated well. Here in Nigeria, one of the most prominent faces on the occurrences is General Murtala. Murtala is a coup maker who was assassinated. The legal tender of that country that touches every hand has had General Murtala's effigy on it since 1976. So if he's saying that coup makers, and he keeps referring to our revered military officers as criminals, which is very appalling. It is insulting to our military. I remember somebody referred to Jerry Rawlings in this country as Pinochet. At that time, General Nunu Mensah and Jerry Rawlings were not close. But General Nunu Mensah came out to condemn it in no uncertain terms. You cannot describe our military officers as criminals. It is very uncalled for, and he, as a former member of parliament and a very respected, journalists should not be using such words against our military officers. It is not correct. But for me, like I said in the beginning, I do not have any name in mind. If only they are able to rebrand and so on to have the airport and, running with all the revenue and so on, and to not confuse, pilots, etc. They can go ahead. After all, I am not government. I am not in government. And one man cannot stop the government from doing what it is bent on doing. But what I would like to say is that the narrative has not been, properly, prosecuted in the minds of Ghanaians.
Thank you very much, Justice. Thank you very much for joining us with those perspectives. Let me come to Nana Frimpong. The name is getting changed. The bill is going to go to Parliament. You agree with the Accra International Airport idea, or you think another name will suffice? Nana Frimpong, you are muted. If you can unmute. And so let me hear from you first. Do you think that the Accra International Airport name is what we should stick with, or perhaps we should find some other name? Some have even muted Kwame Nkrumah.
Well, I don't mind if the name is reverted to Accra International Airport, or we decide to choose any Ghanaian worthy of that honor. I mean, I don't mind at all. I think that for me, what the name Nkrumah has come to symbolize is the fact that it represents an idea, a way of thought. And I'll give you an example. Do you see Tema Oil Refinery? Today, Tema Oil Refinery is being revamped. It is refining oil again. Yet, some few years ago, it was on Donkumi, about to be sold for scraps. That gentleman who occupies the CEO position at Tema Oil Refinery has Nkrumah in his heart. And it is the expression of that mindset that has seen Tema Oil Refinery now refining oil. And so names and tags are significant to the extent that they inspire a nation to be the better of itself. And so if we choose a prominent name or an individual who may not even be in limelight, but has done something significant that can inspire the rest of us, why not?
Nana Frimpong, Accra International Airport, or you have some other suggestions?
Great. I believe that for now, even the Accra International Airport is becoming an issue. Let's just go back to where it is. But before I would wrap up, I want to say something, especially for those who want to justify the fact that there were issues with the CPP government and therefore there was a need for what happened. I have to say this. You see, in 1966, some people were very angry, I understand. And even some called them, even some CPP members rejoiced. Yes, it's true. But we can't deny the fact that in politics, there's always going to be some kind of issue here. What we need to look at is, as a nation, that national honors are not based on who was happy in a particular moment or who was angry. They are based on what history proves over time. If the coup was truly a salvation to Ghana, then Ghana should have become more stable, more prosperous, and more self-reliant, and therefore more respected after 1966. So one simple question I want to leave everyone. 60 years on, are we a stronger, richer, more industrialized nation than it was before? If it's so, then clearly we can then say that we must stop romanticizing coups. That is not a development plan, and a coup is not democracy either. A moment of jubilation is not a verdict in history. Right. So all I want to say is this. The freedom that we enjoy today, and we are still begging for jobs and factories and stable city. people should understand that the museum is there for history, but national monuments must be given to those who have done things that over these years, 60 years on, we should have said that he really did the right thing.
Right. Thank you very much, Nana Frimpoma. He is a former CPP flag bearer, presidential candidate, joining us for this very important conversation. Thank you very much, Justice Adobo, for joining us. Thank you very much. Ernesto Yabo, as always, thank you very much for connecting. Professor Kwatin, thank you very much for doing us the honors, giving us the historical context. And then Ras Mubarak, also thank you very much for bringing in the fire. Andy Dusty is up next to the library. Tomorrow, you don't have to miss News File with something like the at 8 a.m. in the morning. My name is Kwaku Asante. This has been Ghana Connect. I'll see you again same time next week.